Hey, good morning, Ryan. This is Wally. I'm here.
All right, yeah, well, I know it's early this morning, everyone. We'll give it another 5 minutes or so, and then we'll get started. Regardless of whether or not who's here, so there's a few things in terms of action that we might have to take next time. One being the policy to make the meeting entirely virtual, so I'll be motivated to come in person to vote on that.
Slade, are the people online?
Shaw and Bobby are. It's just the Shaw and line. Check that out. Yeah. Yeah, just try to do it. Sure. Fortunately. So, shoot. Let's
We're gonna go ahead and start. All right, thank you for everyone's here. We're just gonna get started and hopefully, people show up throughout the time. That's fine. If not, we'll move some of the other action items on to the next meeting. So we'll have to call meeting order. It's 8:09. Or moves. But as usual, we have public comment through 3 different methods. Nanette, going to public at the website, just call, make sure you leave all our information so we can get back to you. Any comments that are made before, during, or after the meeting will be included in our public comment. So to go ahead and get started with the action items, we can't really vote on since we don't have a forum in person. First being our policy for this committee itself. There are a few changes basically related to the physical in-person nature of this meeting. This group, since this group is not responsible for policy or finance, we're able to move this into post-COVID meetings in terms of having 5 physical members. Looking to shift that to making that a majority of members can vote virtually. So this action item will likely have to push to the next meeting. So that's kind of the thought behind this process. We don't have to worry about having in-person meetings going forward. There's also a few other things in here that are struck through regarding, appointing of alternate members, as well as notice for meetings being a week in advance. So just go ahead and review that, and we'll vote on that next meeting. So can vote for a chair, vice chair, there's person. So worry about that in the next meeting. Same with the approval of the minutes from last October 4th, 2021. So with that, I'll go ahead and move into my own little brief presentation here regarding our TSM&O projects that we had to apply for in the last cycle. As you know, we spent the last year, 5 weeks, 2021, developing our TSM&O project selection process, as well as carrying out the FDOT's master plan for Sarasota and Manatee area, as well as a TSM&O process inside of our congestion management process. So that took, like I said, place over the last year. We developed a project application process and we submitted those to SDOT. We were taking into account for this process, the application included just general project description, benefits of it, necessary, system engineering risk assessments, depending on, whether the project had been done before in the area, whether it's new, that kind of determines whether or not those things were needed. Consistency with the existing plans that we currently have in place, including our TP, the congestion management process, like you mentioned, as well as our transit choices study that is looking to implement different types of technology along the corridor, our concept of operations plan that's currently ongoing, as well as specific cost estimates that are necessary in order to get an understanding of how it fits within our cost feasible, as well as the box funds that we set aside going forward. Like I said, we had created, just to read this, but this is an example of the application that we had set up. And it kind of includes all the things that I was just discussing, as well as any kind of future needs or anything that we need to be aware of prior to funding these projects. It also took into account the risk assessment required every jurisdiction to fill this out along with each application to make sure that DOT was aware of any kind of upcoming potential risk with these projects and determine whether or not a full system engineering was going to be necessary going forward. So with that, we have received 11 projects from our jurisdiction. Some had been on here before, others were new. Some were related just to, simply data, as well as carrying out a system of Bluetooth monitoring. This is the original main kind of one to expand on the existing system that's out there, et cetera, as well as some new projects from the city of Sarasota regarding CDB expansion, phase 1 being in the process with DOT. So Like I said, we look to expand this list going forward as more projects and funding are made available. This is our first pass at this with the team, and we'll see how this cycle goes. We submit these projects in the middle of March. So really with that, that's just more informational. If there's any questions, as always, you can contact Slater or myself, and we'll be happy to talk about our process and what to anticipate in the upcoming process as see what is funded during this year, as well as the upcoming processes. So we all know it comes up pretty quick. We'll meeting with you all again in town tours in late August, early September timeframe, and then all back up again in October. So that's pretty much it from my end. I'm going to talk about that. So if there's no questions, we'll go ahead and jump into Wally's presentation. And then forgot one last slide on this. This is what we kind of carried forward from the LRTB. We had over 31 projects on state roads, as well as 11 TSM&O projects from local roads that were in the cost feasible, as well as $75 million in additional investment, which covered a lot of the other segments that were identified in the previously mentioned master plan and ATS addendum to our CMP, as well as $200,000, which we've discussed, at length in the past, and will continue to do so regarding the operations / potentially data, the needs of our jurisdiction. So that's pretty much it in terms of funding mechanisms for these typical projects. And I'll go ahead and pass it over to Wally unless there's any questions.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. Can you all hear me? Brian, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I'm thinking that most of the people that are part of the TSM&O committee are on the Transit Choices Working Group. So I'll kind of go over just this at a pretty high level, just where we are, just in case there's anyone else unfamiliar with it, we can kind of catch up. So the Transit Choices concept of operations, go ahead and go to the next slide. Really picks up where the Transit Choices study kind of left off. That was done last year. So we'll go over with the schedule, where we are, some of the objectives we're trying to accomplish, what the concept of operations template looks like, kind of working through that. Where we are is kind of the concepts that we're evaluating, what it means for the demonstration project, and then really talk about the next steps. So the next slide is really the schedule, kind of where we are, kind of lays that out, really driven by the working group meetings. So we've been going through the concepts, looking at signal operations, TSP readiness. Most of the agencies provided a checklist that provides what technology is available, what their system conditions are. So having a lot of discussions about the need to coordinate between signal technologies as well as transit and vehicle technologies for communication and how it operates. As we move forward, kind of touching on the parts of the template. Yeah, we're in April with the committee. So what we're trying to do is really advance that demonstration project. The Transit Choices study, and we'll show those examples, had 3 investment levels and a demonstration project to get it, the technology out, demonstrate what could be done, and move that forward. So looking at what are transit and traffic control technologies, what can be done as far as existing communications protocols or things that are in place, and what that means for moving forward. The template document covers about 7 different sections, things that range from what are the cost expectations, what are the service characteristics going to be like, what are some of the risks associated, what's the environment for operating this in. So we talk about that, really getting into a lot of the agency roles and responsibilities. There'll be a lot of intercoordination that'll happen between FDOT, Manatee County, Sarasota County Area Transit, Manatee County Area Transit as well. So what that means is we'll also be developing a memorandum of understanding, making sure that everybody agrees what their roles are, what the roles of everyone else are, and how everyone can work together to kind of have a great project. So if we move from the objectives, the next slide covers really just what is in the concept of operations. Many of you are probably well familiar with the systems engineering process. But just to illustrate kind of where we are in that kind of in the early stages of an implementation, but really hopeful that the demonstration project advances future um, implementation throughout the corridor. And really on the right is the overview of what's in that concept of operations template, being able to describe the system and evaluate facilities and or feasibility and a proposed alternative. Tried to highlight the first three sections because really a lot of that comes from that transit choices study that was already done. As we move forward with the remaining sections to get into really the concept and operating scenarios. So on the next couple of slides, I'll just walk through what came out of that transit choices study. The first was just a low investment level that looked at transit signal prioritization, operating in mixed traffic along the corridor, going all the way from really the Route 99 goes all the way from downtown Sarasota to Bradenton. But for the signal operations and the TSP technologies, we talk about really going from University up into Bradenton. The next slide talks about the medium investment, which introduces Q-jump lanes at a couple of different intersections along the corridor as well. And then finally, the high investment was looking at business access transit lanes or BAT lanes in a couple of different areas. I think some of these are definitely concepts and things you've talked about just as you've worked through the transit choices study. So the final slide then really gets in at the demonstration project. That kind of narrows down the focus and looks at really just from University Parkway up to about 26th Avenue, the city of Bradenton city limits, looking at TSP and mixed traffic. And part of the task that we're going through now is to look at where are there the highest potential intersections for benefit for doing TSP implementation. So really looking at not just the impacts on transit ridership on the corridor, but impacts to connecting routes, making sure from a service timing it still works, and then looking at traffic on US 41 and the intersecting roads. The next slide is just a short graphic that was in the transit choices study report that looks at what TSP is as far as how the signal operates. Can we go to the next slide? And so the big thing to draw out here is from a user driver environment as well as bus operator, the goal of kind of the working group that we're going through now is that TSP would be done in more of a passive setting. So it would be all controlled through schedule and technology rather than actual driver or kind of operator involvement. The signal head would stay very similar to where it is now, and so it's the technology that's making the adjustment so that the bus can drive through in advance by extending the green time. So if we move on now to where we are, just on the current progress, we have had 3 working group meetings, had great involvement, interaction from all the agencies, a lot of information that's being shared and discussed about what needs to be done. As we talk about roles and responsibility as far as who maintains the roadway, who maintains the signal controllers as well as transit vehicles, just understanding where those interactions are going to happen and take place. We've begun to talk about some of the operational and policy constraints that would impact changes to the system and who needs to be involved with that, as well as looking at current technology and future needs. We've started running a spreadsheet model that will look at projected savings times for each of the signalized intersections, so we can kind of prioritize those locations for the highest potential. So next steps, we'll continue to work through on the next slide. We'll continue to work through just coordinating with the working group and making that we've got 6 more meetings that are scheduled on there to get through that with the goal of trying to select those top locations for implementation and looking at technology needs. We have talked with the committee. Opticom is out there, so we've talked about where those opportunities exist within the existing system and doing that. And then the memorandum of understanding is something that we'll have to work through and present to local agency boards, county commissions, and the like to get their buy-in on and support for moving forward with this and get through a concept that then can be funded through the MPO's process for implementation. A lot of discussion has been about making sure there's an evaluation of once the project is completed, that there's a demonstration of the benefit that was that was realized as part of the TSP and demonstration project implementation. So with that, just kind of a quick overview of where we are and what's been going on with that. The next slide just really has some contact information if anybody has questions now, or if you'd like to get in touch with us at a future time. So that's all I have, Ryan. I don't know if anyone's there has any questions or anything.
How does it look like it? Thanks, Wally.
Sure.
We'll be in touch when it comes to carrying out the rest of this project. And obviously, like you said, we need to make sure that whatever we bring forward, that we can get an MOU signed and have a dedicated plan to kind of measure effectiveness and continue funding. Not just this demonstration project, but also funding for technology the rest of the so, appreciate your help.
Absolutely. And then our information's there if anybody has comments. And then we've got a working group meeting coming up on I think it's April the 18th in 2 weeks. It'll be our next working group meeting.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Yep.
All right, well, I don't think Eric's online or he's not here, so I'll do a quick comparison of what we do with the regional TSM&O working group. The Sarasota Manatee NPO is part of the regional TSM&O working group. It basically covers the I-4 corridor from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast here. So we're an active member. Eric's going to provide a quick, update to that. So really, I don't really know a whole lot what it was going to cover, but really the real thought was, what are we going to do related to information and technology through kind of these mega regions. So we didn't want to be kind of an isolated NPOs all around the state. We wanted to make sure what we were doing was connected and it was reliable, and we were able to provide certain technology coverage and work through gaps that we have on a major state and interstate and highway systems. So like I said, it basically covers these NPOs and these districts covers basically, like I said, East Coast all the way to the West Coast, with Dallas, Hillsborough, Manatee, Pasco, Polk, Metro Plan, River to Sea, and Space Coast. So many NPOs, DOT districts, as well as those radiations are the expressway race in these areas. So really, I did a brief poll. We discussed this in our last meeting of some of the causes of congestion of the counties that are within this regional area. I don't know if you can see that, but as you can see, ours are a little bit more diverse in terms of things that are happening. We've got a lot more other causes and less to do with signal timing. So that's a good sign that we still have work to do with signal timing, but some of our other areas over 50% in cause of congestion related to signal timing. Obviously, we still have incident work zone, that's still a significant one, as well as recurrent congestion, which is something that we have to address going forward. There's a federal mandate to look at reliability of segments to make sure that we can reduce recurring congestion in our areas. So really the whole purpose of this group in general is to kind of create these multiple steps. We participate, we convene local champions, including our elected officials. The whole goal is to continue to advance TSM&O principles and technology. And then, as a group, we've been working towards, creating memorandums of understanding ourselves that we've ourselves have signed, creating, ongoing goals, objectives, and policies, as well as the working group continually passing knowledge back and forth to each other, things that we're currently working on. Like I said, very similar. Our goal is to support and to create a new culture, showcase what we're doing, and then exchange ideas. What we do, like I said, we have monthly meetings, share knowledge, as well as ideas on creating new opportunities for funding. We've shared recently at the last meeting, actually, what we were working on in terms of our, like I said, what I just covered now regarding our new application process, as well as working with District 1 and some of these priorities. And like I said, the rating of these advancing TSM&O and prioritizing projects. Ideally, probably in the future, looking at how we can create kind of a mega project list, kind of like we do with TRIP or other types of fund codes. Creating TSM&O as its own own working group, its own list of projects. So these are some of the things that they have. The working group has won here in the recent future. Basically, just grants that they've applied for, and really the success is based on creating set institutional limits on what we expect from each of the group members, identifying our shared priorities, identifying a TSM&O champion. Like in our area, I know we've been working on creating an elected official or someone that has greater influence that can really be behind the things that we're working towards TSM&O. An incremental build, meaning, we don't just try to implement everything at one time, we have a better understanding of what we're working on, and then create a formalized structure, which is kind of what does, creates expectations for each of the members. And really, that's it. It was really just, I asked Eric to be here, just basically to provide an update of what the group is doing, who we are, and the whole purpose. And that, our NPO is glad to be a part of this regional working group. Continue, looking forward to continued engagement going forward. So that's really all I have for that. There's no questions. Let's dive into the last one. I know we've got someone here from the TFT.
We do, yeah.
If you could just provide a quick update on what's going on your end related to TSM&O stuff, that would be great.
Sure. I apologize. I tried to send my presentation, but
Oh, that's fine. You can
can I hardwire?
Yeah, or you can send it to Slade real quick and get it up there.
Get it on the flash drive or? Just
Like why mechanics.
we make a change
Oh.
of those words and then.
Hey, morning, Dan.
The time is the TSM&O meetings today. Oh, okay. All right.
You'll catch the DNT presentation.
Yeah.
All right. I know, I checked I saw an email that said 9:30, but then I checked the calendar, it said 8, so I was like, oh. But maybe I was thinking of there's a transportation resiliency meeting.
Yeah.
Is that-
Yeah, that's this afternoon at 2.
Okay, well, great, I'll be the only one here for this. I'm the TSM&O, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Only golf carts are permitted, maximum speed limit is 20 miles an hour.
Done deal. Yeah, we're gonna try to avoid it. Doesn't seem-
Okay.
Just be like,
Ideally, we're not gonna have the same dates either, so we just had to move on for scheduling purposes, so.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
typically, these will be on their own days, but on the AC meeting, so.
Sure.
That's usually why they're ready.
But it just anywhere.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that all that's clarified.
Okay.
And the real thing about the making policy, Dan, while they're finishing that up, was just, we'll have everyone come in and vote one more time, but we're moving it to, virtual, so we don't have to attend. Any longer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because, post COVID, we don't really decide policy. We're like your biannual critiques from. So
We can try it. We can try and make it indoor.
Just cut down on people's travel, I know.
Oh, yeah, certainly.
With COVID, so.
Okay.
Yep. I'll go back and I'll go back and ask if you've got questions.
Okay.
Do this on Teams.
Yeah, yeah.
After this presentation, I'll go back. That's if you got any questions about it, because it's sorry.
Okay, excellent.
Nice, we want to start on it. Maybe better on this.
Hello. I just got here.
Still have a chair?
No, there wasn't anybody here. So we need, I'm trying to get 5 people here so I can change the policy and make it all virtual.
Well, we need to put that up.
I did say that, I'll say it again at the end when I'm let you know that in our October meeting, I'll make sure everyone knows that we did 5 people here in person, that I can change it through.
Y'all have a nice weekend? Okay, good. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Every weekend is good.
So I biked the Lakes Trail,
Which part?
the extension, which is super nice, last weekend to get to my folks' place. And at Beneva, I hit the light, it stops, and then I'm biking around, and then there's a single driver, he's like, why don't you watch for traffic next time?
You push the button to go, right?
Yeah, exactly, the light stopped, and the guy stops at the light, he's like, why aren't you watching for traffic?
Yeah.
Some people just don't get it, do they?
He doesn't want to stop.
Exactly.
I'm exactly as much traffic as that one car,
Yeah.
so,
No, we started that a few Fridays ago, and we had one, for the most part, everybody, the drivers was part of, followed the rules. But then there was a Weber. The guy just didn't feel like stopping, he pushed it, and as soon as it started moving through that, he just kept going. It's like, dude, you didn't have to wait, because he turned immediately to the left at the next intersection, which was like maybe a couple hundred feet. It's like you couldn't wait. Oh, I know.
Yeah, indeed.
I love it when people speed past me to be sitting in the next red light,
Oh, exactly.
It's a hurry.
And I guess at Sawyer Loop, I hit the button, and then some car was like honking at me, like I guess kind of wanted me to proceed, so that he didn't have to stop. It's like, forget that, I'm always gonna hit the button.
Yeah. We had somebody who was trying to tell us to come, you go. It's like, no, dude, that's not what this is gonna work.
Exactly.
And then you also did have a lot of the cyclists who
Right now, like,
didn't push anybody, they just go. It's like, you're not going to the situation.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
You should be able to share your screen now.
it's gonna work.
Yeah, it needs to.
Excellent.
Yeah, we're already done. So
Yeah.
But I'll go back and ask.
Okay.
Started at 8.
Okay, excellent. Yeah.
It's in month. No,
We got, yeah, it's 8.
no, my equipment says,
We'll be in by 8.
but we're gonna change it next time.
We'll make sure no one likes it. I'm aware of that. Sure, that's.
And like, every time,
We did not.
obviously. Yes, I'll be my truck forever, you wanna get back to my desk.
Great.
Okay,
So,
so
thank you.
good morning, my name is Stephen Davis. I'm the new TSM&O program engineer for District 1, taking over from Mark Mathis. I think you guys have this meeting every 6 months or so.
Usually, yeah, it's usually twice a year. And, only when we're working on developing plans that we need more frequent.
Gotcha. Good, so that might be why I missed you last time, because I just started a little under 6 months ago. So I'm brand new, but Mark is now our district traffic operations engineer. He's my boss over all of District 1 traffic operations. And I manage the TSM&O area, which is our ITS production, our TMCs, signals and arterial management sections. So wanted to make sure I was here in person today to do a face-to-face with everyone. But recently we had our quarterly RTMC operations update down in the Venezuela Swift Center. They provide us with an excellent presentation that pretty much covers everything you guys might be interested in Sarasota Manatee. So I tried to pull out some nuggets for you guys that you'd like to hear some updates on. So I'll go through that real quick. They gave us TMC updates, active arterial management updates, ITS, TIM and Road Ranger updates, and some innovative solutions that we've been working on. So in general, you know, in District 1 and FDOT, we have some pretty high metrics we hold ourselves to as far as our open roads policy and incident clearance times. As you can see, and these are for I-75 only at this point. And they are I-75 district-wide. But on average, our open roads duration, we want to have open roads, all lanes open back to traffic within 90 minutes. You see there in 2022, we're on the right track. You know, we generally kept a good pace under 60 minutes over the last 3 years. But our target is 90 and we're well under that. Our actual incident clearance duration times, which doesn't include lane clearance times, but just the incident in general when an incident is cleared, is doing well. It's kind of on par with previous years. Along with our roadway clearance, total incidents, this is something of note. In the past, 2019, before the pandemic, we were kind of headed in the wrong direction. We were trending upwards throughout the year. And then we kind of had a little bit of a reset in 2020. We went way down, obviously with a reduction in traffic. But then in 21, we kind of rebounded slightly, but under the 2019 markers. And now we're slightly above pace of 2021 and 22, not where we were in 2019, but total incidents on the interstate are down. Other performance metrics, CCTV finds. These are the incidents found by our operators in the TMCs. We have a certain percentage at 25% we like to find just to keep ourselves proactive. We're well above that metric. Time to post on the dynamic message signs. We're meeting those metrics as well, well under it, and getting faster, which is good. It's a testament to our operators and the shift supervisors. Road Ranger Service Patrol time to dispatch. Particularly proud of this metric. In years past, we kind of struggled to meet that metric, and now we're well under that. It just means we have a metric of 3 minutes to dispatch, and right now we're at the 2-minute mark or lower, which means the Road Ranger's getting to the incident or to the stranded motorist that much faster. And then verification duration, this is how fast the operator sees and identifies the event. In Sun Guide, we're doing well there as well. Total monthly incidents by year. Each year is represented by a different color on the bar chart. You can kind of see in 2020, we got really low there. In 2019, we were headed in the wrong direction. We rebounded pretty well in 2021. In most instances, back to the 2018 level, not quite to 2019. In 2022, like we said before, we're kind of on pace with 2018, not quite to 2019. The TPAS system, this is our truck parking availability system. You've probably seen this on interstate. We installed those at several of our rest areas. While there have been some concerns with the reliability of the technology, right now it's a puck technology in the pavement. In the recent dry months, they tend to perform a little bit better. They seem to be a little less reliable in the rainy season. When things get wet, there's some interference there from the pucks to the receivers. But in general, right now they're pretty good. I wouldn't look at this chart too hard and strain your brain this early, but generally what this is saying is pretty much what we expect. The reliability of the sensors is going up during the dry season. We'll continue to monitor it. Right now, we have our operators do verification, visual verification with CCTV on a regular basis. I believe it's every 15 minutes. They take a look and they do a count of the available spaces and just make sure that those spaces are corresponding to the number of spaces that are showing up on the actual sign on the interstate. This is a small update here too with this as well. DOT's in the very early stages, led by the central office, looking into additional truck parking locations. Also on the arterials, they seem to be having some issues with a lot of trucks, particularly in the rural areas, parking on the shoulders at night, staging in intersections, tearing up the shoulders, and just general safety and security concerns. So DOT's starting to look at that to see what we could possibly do to provide a better solution there. Would be remiss if we didn't talk about storm team prep. We're always looking at storm team needs and highlights. Won't get into it too much here. Probably the time for that is more in May and early June. But we do have a fully staffed storm team in the TMCs. We have specific individuals identified through our contract to come in and provide support. We have 8 primary participants and then alternates as well. We do have some upcoming meetings in prep for that, for emergency shoulder use along I-75 if that needs to be activated. And we're having some guest speakers and some tabletop type exercises to make sure that our SOPs are up to date, that everyone knows what they need to do in the event of a storm, including our ITS maintenance contractors, with generators, power, fuel, road ranger support, extra PCMS and dynamic message signs and things of that nature. So if you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to reach out. And we can fill you in and provide you with our plans and SOPs on how we run things. A few updates on some things you might be interested in. We are developing an emergency shoulder use dashboard that's going to allow us to monitor mile markers at specific locations, give us weather conditions and congestion, automated congestion updates based on where FHP or DOT might need to take a look if there's a concern with ESU operation. So that's pretty good. That'll be piped to central office. If any of the local agencies are interested in seeing that or getting access to it, let us know. Try to get it to you once it's in test mode. We'll update on Sun Guide. We did just recently update to Sun Guide 8.1. If you've ever used or seen that system, it was a pretty smooth transition in comparison to last previous updates. There shouldn't be too many hiccups. And then our arterials, which is probably mostly what you guys are interested in. So currently in Sarasota, Manatee, of course, we're running our operations through the Bradenton site in the STMC. These are our current shifts. We go from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday with 2 operators each. And then we just are starting up a weekend shift as well, going from 10 to 6:30 p.m. On the weekends. We have 1 operator there that we're training up. So we'll be able to provide coverage there as well. Currently, we have about 150 miles of arterial and interstate coverage, and monitoring about 325 signals. Just a quick update from January to March for our arterial customer requests. In the previous quarter, from October to December, we had upwards of 130 citizen requests. This last quarter, we only had 44, which is kind of remarkable, given it's the peak season time, after Christmas and before Easter. 40 of those 44 had been closed as of last week. Hopefully they're all closed now. And from that, we provided 49 permanent signal timing adjustments through Sam Campbell and the STMC, and they remote access the signals. 26 of those were from citizen concerns, but 23, almost half of those were identified by our operators. So that's an indication that we are being proactive and not waiting for complaints to come in. Sam and his team are doing a fantastic job of staying vigilant and looking for concerns and fixing concerns on the fly. This next stat is a testament to that as well. They did 447 temporary adjustments in the last quarter alone. It is a huge amount. It was an increase over the last quarter, but I will say that as they make these temporary adjustments and they see that it's something that's a recurring issue, they are making those permanent adjustments and updating the sign and seal timing plans, working with the counties, local agencies to make sure that those are cleared to them, of course, first. We want to have open communication and agreement between each other on those adjustments, and then we can go ahead and make them permanent. Some of those may be seasonal in nature, but we hope that it's making a difference out there. I see someone has their hand raised.
Hi, this is Dave Hutchinson with the MPO, and I do have a question, actually 2, but the first one is, of the 49 permanent signal timing adjustments, was there any overlap where the operators also identified some of the locations raised by the citizens, or were they completely, I know that the 26 and the 23 are separate. I'm just wondering if the operators also identified some of those 26 is my first question. And then the second question is, maybe you could talk a little bit about the signal corridors where we have the dynamic systems. My brain is not working right now. It's they're not automated.
You're talking about?
Yes. And we saw where, the Manatee county recently received a national recognition for their TSM&O efforts, and one of their items in the case study from the National Centers of Excellence was that those systems are working effectively. And we've had in our TSM&O plan other jurisdictions indicate that they would like to convert more corridors to those systems, and they seem to be effective. So I just, if you could comment on that, it would be great. Thanks.
Yeah, so to the first question, I think my understanding is the 26 and the 23, the 23 of the 49 were the operators specifically identified. Can't tell you much more than that. I could reach out to Sam to get you more detail, but 23 of the permanent were operator identified. As far as acknowledgement for TSM&O systems, I'm not sure, just coming into it, what systems you're recognized for or which ones you're specifically addressing. If it's coordinated systems or if it's advanced traffic management, I'm not sure.
No, some of the signals on certain corridors, State Road 70 and State Road University, are to some extent self-adjusting.
Oh, adaptive systems.
Adaptive systems, that's the term.
Yes. Yeah, so the State Road 70 system has been on and off, is my understanding, with the construction of the new interchange. I know there's a system there in the vicinity of the interchange. That construction's wrapping up. So that adaptive system, if it isn't already back on, I have to check with our arterial operator, but it should be back on any day now as they finally accept that project. So we expect that to come online. I think we had a slide on that later in the presentation for some of our kind of advanced traffic management systems. I can get to that in a second. But let me see here. So US 41 Speed Management Project. This is a pilot project Sam has been working on down here in Sarasota. It's adjacent to and north of the airport on US 41. Essentially what we're doing is we're looking at playing with coordinated signal timings and the size of the green bands to help with speed management. And essentially what the original intent was that if we could require another stop or reduce the amount of vehicles allowed through on a green band, that it would encourage people not to speed through the corridor. We had some speeding issues, particularly in the southern end of the airport that I'm sure y'all are all aware of. And so essentially in the early going, we reduced some of the cycle lengths and particularly tighten down the screws in the off-peak periods to discourage that excess speeding. And it's had some success. I think he doesn't have it on here, I don't think, no. But in some segments, we were looking at a 5 to 10% reduction in speeds throughout the corridor. It was more effective in the southern section where speeds were higher. And we're seeing speeds now down at or below the posted speed limit, 5 miles an hour below in some cases, which is what we're looking for, because this is one of our higher head bike crash segments, not just in District 1, but the entire state. And so he's been looking not only at speeds, but we've been looking at average travel speeds, number of stops throughout the corridor, and crashes. Particularly, that's what the goal is looking at crashes. And we haven't seen a increase in the total number of crashes. In fact, we kind of expected to see an increase in the number of crashes, an increase in the number of rear ends as a result, but we haven't seen that. It kind of stayed steady state. Specifically in the peak season, that's a good thing to see. But we have seen a reduction in the amount of serious injury and fatality crashes on a 12-month rolling average. So that's really positive thing to see. One example of that is there was a bicycle crash in the corridor. This is an actual picture of the crash from one of the CCTV cameras at Gaines. And while we can't say beyond a shadow of a doubt that this person survived because of this pilot project and the reduction of speeds we've seen, it could be a strong indication this person was hit and they survived. And you could speculate, that if the vehicle that hit them had been going 5 miles an hour faster, that might not have been the case. And so,
is that graphic available for use in some of our safety presentations? It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
We have a separate presentation on this that we just updated the district secretary on. So if anyone's interested in it, we can send it out. It gets very detailed from Sam. But it's interesting, and we're continuing to modify, and refine at this point, but that's something that we're particularly proud of, and we'd encourage the local agencies' feedback on that as well.
Yeah, there's just, this is Dave again. I haven't sent out a notice yet, but I've gotten the information from the district about some speed management workshops they're holding that'll be all day, one in June down in Fort Myers and one in September in Manatee County at the Ops Center on State Road 64. And they're related specifically to speed management efforts and what local jurisdictions can do to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. We would encourage you guys to go to that. I've been to several of those, and it's pretty enlightening. Likely the one that you're invited to is geared mostly towards roadway design, which is good, from a high level perspective. I will say this specific TSM&O strategy of speed management through signal timing is a new concept. It's not necessarily included in the formal process at this point. D1 is kind of at the front edge of looking into this from a DOT perspective, at least. And so this could be another a strategy we add to our toolbox into those future trainings as well.
I'd really love to have that picture as well and the synopsis of the study.
Your name?
Christy Servia.
Okay. Sure. If you signed up, I'll try to get your email.
Thank you.
County Commissioner,
Oh,
could send it to me, I'll make sure everyone, or Ryan will make sure everyone gets it.
great. Yeah, I can do that. Yes, ma'am. No
Thank you so much.
problem. So some more updates on signal retiming projects.
Excuse me. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So my only, I understand that we have it implemented on US 41. And as you know, US 41 at State Road 70 on the west side is County Road. And what we have seen is, like you mentioned, it's a good concept. And I believe one of the things is lower cycle lengths, which is promoting folks to travel at a lower speed. And that's good. However, what county has noticed is there is significant queuing on the west side of the intersection. at US 41 and State Road 70, and queues extend all the way to 20th Street West. So I would like to see if we can have a little more coordination and partnership about when such changes happen and they end up affecting the local roads as well.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's Vishal, right? Speaking there. So
Yes, sir.
yeah, no problem. I'm not sure of the limits to the extent if it goes all the way up to 70. I have to check with Sam on that. But Vishal, you're right there in the same building. Feel free to walk across and give a shout to Sam when he's in. And I'm sure he'd love to talk through it with you, sir.
Yeah, I understand. My request is if we can do this before it is implemented. My understanding was, yes, it is implemented, but it's affecting some performance on the cross street, which is the county road on this case.
Yep.
But yeah, we can work with Sam on this one. Not sure how much change, because basically it will require raising cycle length. So we need to find some balance in between. My only request is before it gets fully vetted, implemented, and placed in the field, that we have a little more coordination.
Absolutely, no problem. All right, so some additional signal timing, retiming projects. Sam's been working with the group on some spring break timing plans and updates for speed signals, particularly Longboat, Anna Maria, and Sarasota. You're downtown. Hopefully you've noticed this a little bit. I know about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I went through out to Holmes Beach myself. And on our way back, we had the typical off-island backup for about 15 minutes or so. But once we got through the signal at Cortez and got on the way out eastbound onto the mainland, I only stopped once, maybe twice before I got 75, which was fantastic. So it's a testament to them and getting those afternoon flush patterns to work well. So that's good on their part. 41 and Prado Boulevard, they've been working to get that signal up and going down there. 72 and Proctor as well. And then there's 53rd in Manatee County, which also. Construction signal timing support. They continue to provide support, like we said before, at the State Road 70 interchange project and the adaptive system. The 301 interchange is coming online now with that construction, so we'll be in coordination with them, as well as Clark Road. 41 and Gulfstream is an ongoing effort and will be for some time, of course. They continue to heavily monitor Sunset Boulevard and the surrounding intersections there. Coconut, just off of 41 up near Fruitville, and the like, to help ease the pain as much as we can while construction is ongoing. We have been reaching out to construction about any modifications they can make to the MOT plan, and the pedestrian hybrid beacons, a number of pedestrians crossing, things of that nature that we can do to help. My understanding is that there will be some kind of shift in the MOT plan in May or June if construction stays on schedule. So we may be able to see some easing at that point. And then we had some help at Clark Road and Stickney Point as well, and 59 with the emergency closure. Update on some Arterial projects. We can continuing or starting our ATMS.now migration in the STMC. We just got the new servers in and we're starting that process. We hope for that to be complete by the end of this month. Of course, we talked about the adaptive system at State Road 70 interchange, and we briefed about the hurricane evacuation review before. ITS, Arterial project updates for ITS, particular interest to you guys. Like I said, we're just now directly connecting to the Manatee Arterial network through the update to the ATMS.now host. And B Ridge. This is an interesting project. It's a TAPS LA project, which stands for Technology Applications for Local Agencies. It's funded through central office, and essentially it's a partnership with us, the local agencies, to integrate advanced traffic management systems. This one on B Ridge will include some roadside units and connected vehicle concepts, along with some ATS-PMs, which is just a fancy way for us to monitor traffic arrivals and demands in real time and make adjustments. It's very granular data, and hopefully that'll help to ease congestion in that area. We hope to get that project off the ground here at the end of the fiscal year by June. I'm getting long here, so I won't go too deep into this slide. A quick Road Ranger report. Of course, you know, we have a Road Ranger service program, which at this point is only on I-75. To this point, we're behind pace in previous years with our risk events. Risk is rapid incident scene clearance events. So that's good news. Typically, those are only activated for the most severe incidents that need a record support to clear a travel lane or remove some kind of severe accident. So those are down. Typically, we see a little bit more of an uptick before the end of the fiscal year in the June timeframe. Hopefully that won't be the case this year, but so far it's good news for 2022. This is a timetable update of our current activation times, arrivals, scene clearance, and durations. All of those are under our metrics except for the duration, which is at 100 minutes. We kind of want to see that more around 90 minutes. In recent weeks, we've seen an improvement, so that's good news. In particular of interest to you guys, the TIM team meetings are coming up soon. We've got one, you guys, I think next week, Sarasota Manatee, 1:30 in the afternoon. Tom Arsenal is our consultant TIM team leader, and he leads those meetings. And so we hope to see you guys and some of the local agency first responders there in particular as well, to get some updates and some training from Tom. And some innovative, cool things we're mulling over right now. Renjin Joseph, who is our FMS AMS program engineer, is piloting a wrong-way driver vehicle detection video system on several of our interchange ramps. And it basically uses AI vision to detect when a vehicle is driving the wrong way automatically. So it doesn't have to necessarily be detected by an operator. And so that gives us a way to proactively determine when someone is going the wrong way and activate DMS signs, alert FHP, and get them out there to respond. In the early going, we saw quite a few false alarms from mowers, vehicles backing up in travel lanes, disabled vehicles, even birds and things of that nature that kind of threw the system off. But over the last several months, those false alarms have significantly reduced. And we're seeing a lot more reliability from the system. In the first 2 quarters alone, the system has detected 12 and 9 wrong way driving vehicles, and most of those self-corrected. One of those FHP actually was able to stop on the interstate, possibly save a life. So that makes the system worth it. At this point, DOT is now hoping to have wrong way driving actual permanent systems that are fiber connected into the TMC at all interchanges on I-75 throughout the entire district by the end of the calendar year is our goal. So the video system will go away and be replaced by the permanent system, which will provide those proactive alerts to the TMC and the operators. That will be a huge safety improvement for the district. We're really excited about that. There's some more, lots of details here. Look at that later. A cool project we just started about a month ago. We attached a PTZ camera to one of our road rangers. This is essentially the same type of camera you would see at an intersection. We scrounged together some parts lying around at one of our maintenance contractors' laydown yards, and it's just a candy cane with a Bosch camera on the bottom of it, and it's a little crude, as you can probably tell, but it works. It is sending live feed back to the TMC. It's only active when the aero board is up, so it's not like we can look around while the aero board is down. There's a closer shot there. But this is some example photos of what we can see, and essentially it turns it into a mobile ITS camera for us. It's not really intended as a dash cam in the truest sense, for insurance or liability purposes, but what it really does is if there's areas where one of the few areas where we don't have interstate coverage, we can use that camera there. Or if there's a location where the road ranger is stopped and a sign is obstructing the view, like a DMS or a guide sign, or there's overgrowth from a tree in front of the camera and we can't see what's going on, we can tap into this camera and see around the corner or see back into the overgrowth where we couldn't see back in with an ITS camera. It just gives us better visibility. It's a better safety aspect and gives the operators a better idea of what's going on. So it's a cool application. That's something unique we're doing in D1 that we're piloting that isn't really being done statewide. And so we're anxious to kind of further refine that and see if we can make it something permanent and that can be done throughout Florida. That's another example there. Another thing we're considering trying out is a back of queue warning system. We have the sign installed. One of our locations that's got sight distance issues and has recurring congestion. So essentially this will just be a sign that's a flasher. And it's got an automated congestion system that's activated by loops in the pavement, but it's also connected to the TMC where it can be activated by the operators if needed. This is good for blind vertical curves in areas where we have recurring congestion and there's an issue with sight distance and people being able to stop and trying to prevent crashes and secondary crashes. Another idea is a rolling back of queue truck that we're considering. It'd be a significant investment, but it's an idea that's been tried in a couple other states, in Tennessee and Indiana. And basically the idea is that you would have a rolling, essentially maintenance vehicle with an attenuator on the back with an aero board. And the aero board would be more like the vehicle on the bottom of the slide that has a message sign, and it would follow the back of the queue on the interstate where we don't have these permanent signs. Essentially warn people that, you know, there's traffic stopped ahead, you know, be prepared to stop or slow down, and that would help some high-speed rear ends that on the interstate end up being very severe. We're partnering with Tennessee DOT in the near future here this coming month to get some more updates on how they run their system. But they've seen some pretty good results from this. You can see their 19% reduction in secondary incidents, and it has saved some lives. So we're anxious to see how we can apply it here. The general idea of how this would work would be you'd have a pilot vehicle on the shoulder between interchanges and between the dynamic message signs. As a warning, you can see the back of queue there. And then as the queue propagates backwards, the truck would reposition itself upstream of the back of the queue to give drivers added warning, you know, when they need to stop. I wouldn't really think that we would allow them to back up on the interstate. That's not something that we're too crazy of an idea about, but we do like the idea of us, you know, repositioning them and essentially leapfrogging them back to give some extra warning. So that's generally how it would work. The attenuators, you know, they're a little bit hefty in costs, and you have to have the right vehicle to connect them to. Right now, from what we're hearing, if you want the truck mounted attenuator that's deployable and folds up, it's about $35,000 on the higher end, and you need an F450 type truck to haul it. So we may have to partner with our asset maintenance group to do something like that. It's really in the capability of our road rangers per se, but we're considering piloting one of these vehicles, give it a shot, and see where it goes. That's it. Any other questions for DOT for interstate or arterials?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Very informative. Yep, so clearly there was an issue with calendar stuff, so we'll go back. We still don't have enough on calendar, we don't have enough for any of the action items. I talked a little bit about the policy. So next meeting, everyone please come, because we're making this meeting virtual, so we need 5 minutes to vote on that. So that'll be good to do well.
We'll have to come here.
In October, vote to make it happen. Yes, that's correct.
Brian, just so you know, this was scheduled at 9 o'clock on my calendar.
Rachel's original one, everything for this meeting going forward will be going to this.
Okay.
Or not Rachel. So the original one that Rachel had done from, we just continue to carry over from a year ago. Slater, and that will be the ones in charge of all the invites from this. Wasn't the email that it was 80, but clearly it didn't get updated on your calendar. So make sure that that's changed going forward. So we still can't do any of that. We'll wait for election of chair and vice chair in October. And same thing, 50 minutes turned over. So really with that, Wally and I provided updates basically that were things that we've already covered. Really just go to Eric. We'll eventually pull that back up and let Eric go ahead and provide his presentation on our regional TSM&O working group and what we've all been working on as a greater region. So thank you, Eric.
So what do you want me to position?
Oh, the clicker doesn't work, so if you could sit anywhere at the table where you could just click or roll, Slate would give you the mouse for some reason.
Hello, Eric. How are you?
That's David that was talking
Oh,
about it.
good morning, Dave. How are you? Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Eric Hill. I'm Director of Transportation Systems Management and Operations with Metro Plan Orlando, sister agency, if you will, in the Orlando region. Okay. And so this morning, I'm going to give you an update of a project that we started over a year ago. It's a regional TSM&O program. And the whole idea is how can we, as MPOs within Central Florida, work together to advance TSM&O. Now, what you're looking at on the screen there, you see it says I-4 Corridor Coalition, and it's strike through. Because early on, when we were speaking with some of our federal partners, they suggested that we approach it that way. But in subsequent discussions with other MPOs, the directors, and we came to an agreement that we should probably just call this a regional TSM&O program. Number one, it's not just the I-4 corridor because we're not in the I-4 corridor. We also have Pasco MPO as part of this. They're clearly not in the I-4 corridor. We also have the Space Coast MPO, Brevard County, clearly not in the I-4 corridor, but in Central Florida, and there's again agreement that TSM&O is an effort that MPOs we need to have a strong role. So that's pretty much the philosophy for bringing this effort together.
Yeah.
I just roll it forward.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me start with this slide here. The reason I start with this is because, and I've been doing this TSM&O ITS stuff for a couple decades. So I've seen how it's evolved. And so what I've seen a lot of is the technology looking for a problem, looking for something to do. And you know, the technology it's exciting. You know, I have this saying that I'm infatuated with technology, but I'm not in love with it because technology can go sideways. And so, you know, we come up with, you know, these technologies, but we're looking for something to do with it. And so we have to come up with a better value proposition. You know, are we looking for a problem or are we looking for an opportunity? And so on this scale here, you know, you have low tech and high tech. You know, the low tech, when we're talking about TSM&O, can be an agreement between jurisdictions on signal retiming in a car. Simple agreement, right? Low tech, but it's an opportunity and it does meet a challenge or a problem. Then at the other end, we have high tech. Yeah, there are some technologies that we need to use. We need to start to deploy it. And yeah, it does solve problems. So the notion is, it's not just, you know, looking at the latest technology that comes out to mitigate some of these traffic congestion issues that we have and that we experience. TSM&O, not sure, I want to say that everyone in here understands TSM&O completely, because for some folks it is new. But it's basically, we're looking at how we can use information communication technology to improve safety, security, and reliability on our transportation network. And it's the reliability part that I think is the most important. Back up. The safety is the most important, and then the reliability. So that's what we're looking at. It's how we can use information. Information could be an agreement, communication, again, an agreement, and then technology to mitigate these challenges that we have. This just shows you the MPOs that have come to play in the districts. It's 3 districts. We've also involved the Turnpike, Central Florida Expressway, and Tampa-Hillsborough Expressway regard. It's part of this community. I've highlighted the MPOs, the TPOs, because we've created a working group. Ryan represents you, the working group.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Could you share the presentation, please? We can't see it online. Share your screen.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you.
It's a commercial break. We have to pay bills. So let me, okay, until it comes up, let me go ahead and I'll speak and try and characterize it as best as I can so that those that can't see the presentation will have a mental image of what I'm speaking about. But the counties that are involved, starting on the East Coast, is Volusia County, Brevard County, and then you have Metro Plan Orlando region, which is 3 counties, Seminole, Orange, Osceola County, Polk TPO, which is Polk County. Then we have Hillsborough MPO and 4 Pinellas, and then Manatee, Sarasota Manatee, and then to the north is Pasco. We also have the 3 districts because it covers 3 districts, 1, 5, and 7. And then I mentioned the Tampa-Hillsborough Expressway, Central Florida Expressway, and then the Turnpike Enterprise, part of the community that we have. I don't remember what my next slide is, but I'm guessing it's a slide that looks at the causes of congestion. Part of
Sorry about that.
So part of understanding the causes of congestion, and this is historic, that we typically see it as not having enough capacity. And so what we have in the transportation industry have done historically is just said, okay, well, let's add another lane, let's build another road, that solves it. Well, it does for a short time, then we have induced traffic. We're back to square one. So one of the things that technology and certainly data has showed us or helped us in this planning region or realm is that we've gotten smarter about what causes all of this. And so the causes of congestion has been something that a lot of engineers and planners have started to look at when we talk about transportation planning. At the University of Maryland, they have a system that has been collecting data for decades now on traffic conditions. And so what they've done is they have, in addition to some other dashboards in their program, they've updated the whole notion of causes of congestion. Now, probably kind of hard to see on the screen here, but those causes typically are recurrent congestion, which is lack of capacity. We have incidents, we have weather, we have signal timing, we have holidays, we have other issues that cause congestion. But the point of this is that capacity or not having enough capacity is less than, on average, less than 40% of the causes of congestion. And so what this program at University of Maryland does is it can go down to the county level and show you causes of congestion. Now, this data is for state roadways. So you see, you can look at these graphics here. In the green, the light green is pretty much prominent on most of these on the pie charts, and that's signal retiming. Okay, and now there's state roads, and some of the caveat here is that in some counties you have one state road with not that many traffic signals on, so that's why it's such a big challenge. However, one of the things that we have done at Metro Plan Orlando for the last 14 years is we need an NPO due to traffic signal retiming for 3 counties. And what we have been able to show is over time, we've been able to improve not only travel time on certain corridors, crash reductions, emission reductions, And we do this every year. We go through this annually. Every year, we ask all the jurisdictions that are responsible for maintaining their traffic signals to give us corridors to retime. And we, our staff, we do the retiming. Now, we do it with consultants, but it's done by us. And we've been able to show the benefits of signal retiming. And so this chart, again, shows that some of the opportunities that we have for using technology is to look at how we can improve traffic signal retiming. And full disclosure, I live in Tampa, but I work in Orlando. On my ride down here on 75, as I was going over some of your arterials, a lot of signal retiming could perhaps help there. Not saying if it could, it will, but maybe.
Let's do it.
Well, that's this community, right?
Yeah.
Okay. These are just some illustrations. Ryan has this PowerPoint presentation to share with you. Also, the University of Florida, this program, it's open to everyone. So you can have access to this and use it. Okay, going back a little bit to the regional TSM&O program that we're part of. When we started this, the first thing was to resolve that we were going to do this. And that meant to participate, to identify champions. In your case, it's Ryan is your champion. And then to convene some group. And what we've done is, over to the right, in that last square, we created a working group. It started with, the mission of advancing TSM&O. When there was agreement that we would do this, the directors agreed to sign an MOU. It's just an agreement. Remember, at the low tech agreement to do this. And we didn't ask for anything but staff time. That's it. So we asked for. Again, low tech solution. We've created goals, and again, the working group that meet on a regular basis. And for everyone's knowledge, our next meeting is next Tuesday, and I believe that's the 12th. It's either the 12th or the 14th. That's our next meeting. And you're open. It's accessible virtually, so you can begin attending. Goals to support each other so that we can enhance how we do TSM&O in Central Florida. An important item is culture. Getting the NPOs and their partners to understand that there's a changing culture happening in transportation. And historically, as NPOs, one of the things we've been doing is just, we make sure we prioritize projects, we make sure that the funding flows to build more roads. Well, if everyone thinks about connectivity, fuel economy, what else? Electrification. That's all connection. It's all technology. And so, other than looking at building roads, not to say that that's going to go away, but there is an alternative. And if you look at what is being, where funding is going, where the market is going, it's going towards technology. So changing the culture is important. Showcasing our successes. That's one of the things that we learned early on at Metroplan Orlando. The signal retiming project is one. But we showcase every year as we do it. Showcase the advancements that we've got, and that has created, in Ireland, that's created some groupies, some members of our committees that they like this. They like seeing this. And it's something that, we in the industry, we don't do a lot of, is talk about our successes. We do a great job of defending everything that goes wrong. Some goes wrong. We do a great job of that. Public relations, public output, and all, involvement. We do great there. But when we do something that really works, we don't say anything. So showcasing the exchange, this type of exchange, being here. At our last working group meeting, Ryan gave an update of what you're doing here as a TSM&O community. So that whole exchange of ideas. Again, the working group, we have regular meetings, knowledge sharing. Early on, what we did is a questionnaire to all the MPOs on areas they want to focus on in TSM. And so they all gave us their focus areas. And so there was some themes, a common theme amongst all of them. The knowledge sharing was one, funding. How can you fund your TSM projects? We have been, for the last 15 years, allocating 21% of our surface transportation program funds to TSM projects. Comes out to like $4.1 million every year. We created a ITS master plan, and I think you've done that here, right? Right, okay. To identify funding strategies. So funding is important. Advancing TSMO, yeah, that's been talked about, I think, a lot here. And then prioritizing TSMO projects. We have, again, and I'm using Metro Plan Orlando, but, and this is not the answer to everything. And we certainly don't really want to copy us or mirror us or anything. But prioritizing these TSMO projects, getting these projects funded and then moved. That's been one of the areas that we've shown improvements that we can make, but how we can be responsible with our funding, because that's important. Just to illustrate, we have a great bicycle pedestrian program, but for years those projects sat and did not get. They got funding allocated to the projects, but because of something with either local jurisdictions, department, somewhere, those projects just sat. So the funding just sat. And so what we started doing is coming up short. When we come up short on our TSMO projects, we started taking those funds. We could do it. Taught our bicycle pedestrian community a strong lesson that, you need to move your projects so you're going to lose your funding. So prioritizing projects and making sure they move in the work program is important. Couple of early winners, I'd say, for this working program. The National Institute for Congestion Research at University of South Florida. Some of you may be familiar with the Center for Urban Transportation Research, Qatar. So that's where the NICER is housed at Qatar. And what we asked them to do is do a feasibility study, or to propose a feasibility study to be funded through the NICER. And we put together a proposal the proposal is, here's this concept. Is this something that can grow legs and be a permanent part of the transportation community to solve the problems that we have, or look at the opportunities? Is an entity possible? Is there a feasibility there? And so it was awarded. We received $100,000 from the NICER. And we do have a staff from Qatar working on this. Now, I'll refer back to this in the next slide, I believe. But that's one early success. Second one that's not here that I didn't list is Federal Highway Administration provides states with a program called State. It's the State Intelligent. I can't remember the rest of it. However, what they do is if you develop a proposal or a concept, you submit it to this group, and they will decide on whether they're going to fund it. So we did to develop this program, this regional TSMO program. It was funded. It was funded for $100,000. So we've received $100,000 to work on this regional TSMO program through a federal grant. We've also, through NICER, won another grant to look at the future possibility of this. And because of this community, Qatar also submitted a grant to the Department of Energy to look at, it's called the Vector, but basically to look at current technology and how that technology can provide for automated vehicles, CAVs, connected automated vehicles, using current technology, not future technology, current technology. And what they did is they included this program as part of that, because what they want to use is everyone's miles to do this. And so they allocated $52,000 to our group to do this, and our group serves as like an advisor to them. So some early successes. The Cutter feasibility work that they're doing, they are, I'd say 40%. But one of the early deliverables was to do literature search and then to come up with factors or to identify where these types of entities exist with common factors of success. And so these are the common factors. Now, when we look at these, or at least when I look at them, we're already hitting something in our work. Institutional arrangement. We have the MOUs in place. Identified shared priorities. I've already gone through those themes. Identify champions. Well, Ryan's your champion, and everyone else has a champion. To build trust. Now, that's hard to measure. I can only hope that the level of participation in this program is an indication of the trust that I believe we share amongst each other. And then a formalized structure. That's not in existence yet. Right now, it's volunteer, it's an agreement that everyone has. Because a formalized structure means that everyone's going to put something skin in the game right now. And early on, we agreed that, we were not going to ask any of the NPOs for any skin other than their staff skin. So that's the formalized structure piece. Plus, here's the governance, having a governance board. We don't have anything like that. We're just, work as a working group moving forward. Okay, some opportunities. We do have the grant that we got through the STIC grant that we got. One of the things we included is a peer exchange. And the work that Cutter is doing now is they are going to identify these organizations around the country that are doing similar work in structure, and they're doing interviews. And what we anticipate is probably the summer or the fall, a peer exchange will be bring them in, and we just have this exchange on what they've done right, what they've done wrong, what we can learn from. Example is it used to be called the I-95 Corridor Coalition. Now it's called the Eastern Transportation Coalition. I think it's the states in the I-95 corridor. They have a formalized structure with governance that has been advancing TSM&O for years now. And the fact that they exist, there is a grant that has been offered to anyone for the last 6 years, I think, on looking at BMT fees. Well, nobody's been applying for it, but they have, and they're the only ones using that money now. That's an opportunity. There's the I-10 Corridor Coalition, and then there are some regional entities that are functioning not so much in TSM&O, but in the transportation realm. And they are a group, confederate, if you will, of agencies that have come together because they realize they can get things accomplished in the gray areas. Right now, we're working either black or white, but they see some opportunities in the gray areas, and so do I. The current bipartisan infrastructure deal, it has a lot of discretionary grants that entities like this regional TSM&O program can apply to and use. So that is an opportunity. And this other opportunity, Smart Region Zone legislation, it did not pass. It was legislation to look at three or more counties that can come together and become an entity that advances the whole smart communities notion. That is data gathering, that is data exchange, coming up with projects. I think the best example we have now is the Hillsborough, and I believe it's Hillsborough, Nellis, and Haskell. They have a smart growth or smart growth group. But up in Jacksonville has a smart communities, and they have a very good program. Clayton, I can't remember Clayton's name now, but Clayton, he heads it up, and he's spoken at our group. They again are, in terms of the best example in our state that I've seen, they're doing this, and they were they were behind this proposed legislation. So those are three opportunities that I believe the regional autism program that we have. And with that, I'm finished. And more than welcome to. And thank you. I didn't get to notice either. That's why I came in.
Not a problem. It's not, like I said, it's group, same kind of thing. We're an advisory group to the rest of our groups that, continue the conversation about these things as we continue to prioritize our projects, get funding. We've got funding says so. Once you get to that, Eric, appreciate your help and you coordinating the regional working group. It's been together. Yeah. All right, appreciate it.
I don't know if anyone has any questions or anyone online.
So, Dan Ornstein, City of Sarasota. So I just wanted to say it's amazing you have to pull together a region that huge to make the system work, right? It's probably bigger than some states, but.
Delaware in particular.
Yeah. It's a huge project. So it's a very good idea to have everything coordinated so that this happening down here doesn't lead to something way up in another part of the whole region. So
Yeah. In Central Florida in particular, the way that it is growing. Again, I live in Tampa, I work in Orlando. So I see a lot of what's going on, especially in interstates. And I know that part of the I-75 corridor plan is to add managed lanes and in the future. And in Orlando, we have opened up managed lanes. I think we're in a month. It's been like 3 weeks or a month that we've opened up managed lanes. And they're working fine. No hiccups yet, but that whole concept, it involves a lot of technology. That whole concept is going to, at some point, go across I-4. It's going to hit the Tampa. It's going to happen in I-75. So this is an opportunity for us in Central Florida to look ahead and look at how technology is changing the way that we travel, especially when we look at electrification of the vehicles, connected and autonomous vehicles. Connectivity between that and safety with pedestrians and bicyclists. These are, again, the effort is how do we advance this at the planning part, not so much the implementation and deployment, it's just strictly planning. And as planning agencies, we need to see what's going on in the future, or at least rub that crystal ball a little bit better to see what's going on in the future.
thank you.
We'll be at IT later, share. So continue to.
Are you going?
I probably not, because I have another staff member that is probably going to go. She's an engineer.
Yeah, I first got to you in person. The last couple of IT meetings ago. Very important. Continue to always speak to us.
I'm not an engineer.
It's okay.
Engineer. Through osmosis, so I work with engineers and learned a whole lot about.
Sometimes it's better.
No, it's better sometimes.
Well, I through working with a lot of planners, I've learned some things.
See, it's the exchange. It's the exchange.
So, thank you. Dave and I will be there. We have a presentation that we're working on with Demonstrated Sarasota for the roundabouts.
Okay.
It will be there. It will be presented. So, yeah. So as always, Eric, we appreciate it. Continue to look forward to being part of the group.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
We'll wrap it up. We'll go up from the table. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add? You're all working on.
I'll leave mine to Andre.
Great. Anything?
No, thank you, and I apologize. I did not get.
Yeah, we'll make sure. I got your email. I forwarded it along. We'll make sure that you're on it. Yeah, we'll make sure that as soon as you go to our meeting room, Rachel's invites from last year. So make sure everyone's got the right time. And with that, we'll continue to be working through this. Like I said, we'll hear back from you this year, some of our application, things like that. We're going to build near future. We're putting together it now. So next cycle, we'll see what we've gotten with these latest applications and continue to try to fund our projects. That's what we're gonna do. So, all right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Sure.
Was that you guys who did that?
Bridgeville Line.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of the group there. So I think
It was really foggy when you come to like coming out of my own like. It was like really foggy.
if it's Lime Avenue itself, it's probably us. If it's Bridgeville.
Thank you. So it was yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm glad it's better, definitely. Especially next to the bowling alley, you have to keep the lane smooth, so. You know, yeah, I started bowling recently again, and for 10 years. And I'm like the worst bowler. So I just tell people as a traffic engineer, I appreciate the gutters. Just